You know what time it is. It is the best hour of your week. It is time for tipping points and puzzle pieces. Hit the horn for that. So sit back, put on your seatbelts, mute your phones as I mute mine, and prepare to be engaged in a stimulating discussion. This is episode number 87. So welcome. But again, I don't do this alone. I don't even know if I could do this at all if it wasn't for our fearless leader walking through the machete, chopping down the bushes, obstinance, ignorance, and a whole bunch of other things. Mark Boatwright Frost. Let's give him a hand, bring him on up.
Okay, bushes and ignorance. Yeah. Let's go.
Let's go. How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Oh, you know what? I've got a cup of coffee, so I'm doing fantastic. And if you see my cup, see no, hear no, right, and speak no evil.
Well, you are running for city council. That's going to be kind of the bylaw, isn't it?
Well, you know.
There you are. Ooh, I'm sorry. I started this off with a political diss. Yeah, well, there's a lot of things going on in politics right now. I hear that there's doing a vote on a new Speaker of the House.
Yes.
That no one has ever heard of. So this is going to be kind of interesting.
Well, this is true. I don't know who it is, but I'm glad to see at least
some movement.
We need those pieces in place, right?
Yep.
Regardless of what you think of them.
Yeah, there was an article I read earlier today saying that there's a suspicion that some people are trying to run the clock out on the budget.
Really?
Yeah, because they'd like to see the government shut down for some mysterious reason.
But here's the thing: that he is third in line for the presidency.
By the way, I'm not saying that I believe that. I'm just saying that's an article I read this morning. I'm going, well, that's interesting. Why would somebody do that? But yes, this person, the Speaker of the House, is the one that is in line for president if anything happens to the president and the vice president.
That's too close to not have someone in that position.
Well, someone in that position that is a reasonable human being.
That's debatable. Depending on
who. But that's the goal. But that's the goal, right, to have somebody in there that's a reasonable human being, somebody who's responsible enough to step up into that role and do a good job, or do a job right of some sort that doesn't hurt the people.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to talk about. It's kind of an Easter egg to some degree. I have started writing a series called A Vision for a Human Future.
Okay.
And as you know, I don't do anything where I talk about the problem without talking about a solution.
I like that.
These will be the same. They're a little shorter than the other things you've read that I put together. The first one is about halfway finished. It's about It's the introduction to it. Mm-hmm. And I just want to read a few lines of it so we have something to start talking about. The starting of it is, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, which is Lao Tzu from The Art of War. And it's kind of apropos to everything about this. We have to take a step. We can no longer sit there and be observers. So let's keep it simple and start with a single question. Speaking of the environment in which we live, are you thriving?
Woo!
What does thriving mean? How do we answer? How about we answer it in this way? Are your basic needs being met? If the answer to basic needs is no, you are not thriving. But then almost none of us is. How do we change that? That is certainly the question we are hoping to start answering here in this series. Before we get to the answer, let's make sure we understand the questions about ecosystem in which we add questions about the ecosystem in which these questions are asked. An ecosystem is an interconnection of living organisms, humans included, their physical environment, and all their relationships, including family, community, and environment. Pretty much everything we are connected to: natural, social, work, everything. When you can start looking at the world around you through this lens, you begin to see things differently. You begin to see the connections you were never aware of. And you begin to see that these connections are broken. And how, as more and more are broken, you become isolated, more isolated from the ecosystem. As isolation occurs, we become unable to see the connections and how we interact with them. This is very harmful for us as both individuals and as a connected humanity.
Hmm.
We as human beings are hardwired to connect, with each other. We have to have community. This environment of broken connections goes against everything that we are, everything that we are, and lessens us. The first step to solving any problem is recognizing there is one, by Aaron Sorkin. Last one was a quote. So that's what I want to talk about. It's just kind of like the whole introduction to this is saying, the connections are being broken. As they are broken, we are more and more isolated, and we're pretty far down this path already because we don't even know there are connections.
Right.
You sit in your chair, I sit in my chair, and we don't understand how interconnected we are.
Well, you want to give us some examples?
Well, let's talk about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, we didn't know each other at all.
That is a very true story.
And then we were both invited by Martitha to do a 9/11 memorial presentation. And we started talking. And 86 or 87 podcasts later, we've gotten to be fairly good friends.
And
We
a
know each
workshop.
other. Huh?
And a workshop.
And a workshop. We've done a lot of things together to start driving community. And I would like to say that a lot of what I'm talking about has changed your perspective.
Oh, yes, for sure. I would agree with that.
So together we are starting to address the broken connections. And what my job is to help people see the connections so that they can start mending them and recognizing them and working together and understanding that humans are not all of the divisiveness we have. Humans are not that. Humans are something other. And once you start seeing the connections, all of that stuff goes away and you realize how much nonsense it truly is. Does that clarify it at all?
Yeah, no, I think it's very helpful. And I think it's also a good idea to be reflective in that. You did that with your birthday this year, right? You
Yeah,
wanted folks that were around you that could reflect on the person that they see you as and not the person that you see yourself as. And then you could
exactly
do
so.
some analysis and say, are those things congruent? Do I have some blind spots? Can I take the meat and spit out the bones? So it was a very enlightened birthday that you had this year.
And to try and do that on all occasions, because the more you understand about how connections are made, the more you hold a mirror up to yourself, the more you see how things are rounded, the better you are at engaging and reconnecting those broken streams between us. So, I want to take a step out for a moment because I realize I'm doing this. I know I'm supposed to be looking right at the camera, but on my screen, you're over here. So I turned to look at you on the screen when, I know that people get confused by that, but I'm still getting used to the whole idea of podcasting 87 episodes in.
Well, I'll put you on the other side so you can turn
Okay.
this way. So
And then I can look right at you while I'm looking at the camera. That
yeah,
works out
there you go.
better.
That better?
Yeah. So, the whole thing is so artificial in some ways of doing this because we're not in the same room, but you want it to feel like we're in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
So, and keep the connection with people, so you don't see me say, "Hi, Marwan, how you doing?"
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Oh, over here, this way.
So anyway, so I will be doing a series. This series, this is the introduction. It'll probably be released. Probably about in a week, the way it's going. The next one will be about shelter, which will tie in nicely with next week's podcast, whose title is "Give Me Shelter."
Can I give a PSA?
Sure.
So
Um, Actually, I was going to ask you if you would turn and ask Amanda if she would join us on the podcast
Amanda, would you like to join us on the podcast?
next Wednesday.
Oh, next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, not right now. I think she's like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, we will be talking about shelter. And I found out yesterday while talking to Amanda that she used to be a property manager.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a lot of very interesting things to say as we talk about the whole thing about housing and homelessness and shelters.
Nice.
So, yeah. So I would like to have her as a guest speaker if we could.
Sure.
Okay.
Amanda's willing.
Yeah.
Let's say, you will.
No, that's why I said to ask her, because I think she would add a lot to the podcast.
Right.
So shelter is going to be the next installment, and we're going to be talking. And as I do the visions of living, what do we talk about? So and let's talk about that for just a second here.
Terry, thanks for joining us.
Yes, Terry. You have people who are homeless, and we have a lot of people with opinions about, they just want everything from they want them to just go away,
mm-hmm.
and not really humanistic thinking, but to they need to have really nice homes to move them into, and everything in between. And there's a lot of inaction because of a lot of different visions of what needs to happen. And what I think we need to do is sit down and have a conversation, which is what this is starting to do, is starting that conversation,
right,
with a single step about what can we do right now to start fixing the problem, and start putting ideas out and writing them down and see if we can come to some kind of a consensus about where to put energy to make things happen.
Ooh, I got an answer.
Okay.
It's your favorite phrase. What
Okay.
it starts with.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I said it's your favorite phrase. What it starts with.
We the people.
I think that's how we need to look at all of the things that are facing us right now.
Absolutely.
A news article on the ice shelf and the fact that they're saying there may not be anything we can do now. That just came out this morning on the Young Turks, and I'm listening to that. And it has to start with all of us. It's not going to be a few of us that are able to make the change. Yes, we're looking for a tipping point, but people have to get resigned to the fact that it is going to take the majority and not the minority to really fundamentally change things in a way that's best for humanity.
But it's going to take a minority to start it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I just want to make sure they don't think, we have to wait until everybody comes together. No, it's going to start with a minority of people. So we
snowball, right?
Yeah. And I was listening to the conversation. I actually have not had time to follow up at the city council about providing wastewater treatment and water to that development out in the forest past Illahee. Mm-hmm. I don't know the name of it. In Tidy Forest or something like that. I live here and I don't know the name. It's not a place I go to. So, and I never heard the end of it, but I'm thinking about they're building down on the water line again for a lot of these homes, and the water's rising. I mean, we're talking decades, not centuries. And what do they expect the homes to be there for, like 10 years, or do they just not care?
Well, here's another piece, right? When you have wealthy individuals that are building on waterfront property, understanding what the future ramifications are going to be, that when that time comes, then they are likely going to be expecting subsidies to rectify their situation.
Yeah. And insurance, which is insuring fewer and fewer homes, and I can't wait until the insurance companies decide that waterfront property is not something they want to insure anymore.
That's happening all over Florida right now as we speak.
Yeah. And it's probably going to start happening in Washington State in the very near future.
Well, which is particularly dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do if you cannot get insurance?
Okay, so exactly so. So first things, let's look at a little history here. We had a ferry system long, long time ago here. Okay, the ferry system was working and running. People started building their homes on the waterfront, and then they started complaining about the wakes creating problems for them. You think the wakes of the ferry boat is creating problems? Wait until the water rises 8 feet. Then you're going to have some real serious issues.
But if you remember, they were powerful enough to stop the fast ferry for a while.
Yeah, and or stop and slow the other ferries down tremendously. The Bremerton ferry used to be a 40-minute run,
Yeah.
not an hour run. But they were able to slow that down as it goes through there because they had a lot of political power and money. And, I'm trying not to be as honest about my feelings of politics as I need to, but let's just say that their interests are not necessarily aligned with people.
I see your struggle is real. We understand.
So as we look at this and we look at going into the future, one of the reasons I'm writing this is to show how all the dots connect. But I'm going to be doing so. The plan of this is to write the introduction, which I'm doing now. The next section will be about shelter, and it's all about perspectives. But each one will have here's things we can do right now to address some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So all of them will have actions we as individuals, we can take as communities, we can take together to start addressing some of these issues. Some just close, like the neighborhood gardens that we're working on. Those are things we can do right now to help deal with food security issues, which are going to get very, very real in the next year or two. So
it's already real for so many people now, right?
It is, but the people who don't think it's going to affect them are about to find out how real it is for them too.
They are. They definitely are.
Did you ever see the movies? Did you ever see the movie Soylent Green?
No, I still have not seen it. You said you have a copy of it, right?
I have a copy of it. I'm going to talk to the people at West Side Improvement Center to see if we can do a screening of it there because they have a screen. I have the ability to play it. I have a copy of it. As long as we don't charge for it, there's no copyright issues. And I'd love to show it again. I had two people leave because it was an 80s movie, and therefore the violence was more realistic in a way than it is today, where you have CGI and such. Mm-hmm. It was more people on people, and a couple of people got up and left because it was darker than they expected it to be. But in this case,
how graphic an 80s movie can be.
Well, you got people swinging crowbars at real people. So you've got a little bit more movement, but it's important to see because, I mean, I don't want to blow the movie people, but the haves have so little that you can't even call them haves, really, by our standard today.
Mm-hmm.
And the have-nots have nothing.
But I think that's important for people to see also, because what we're learning is the issues geopolitically. Many of those things are coming home to roost.
Yep.
In the sun, it's this one here's a murder here, here's a death here. This happened, and it's like almost every day now.
Right.
Yeah. The road rage and Gorse and on and on and on.
Yeah. People feel out of control. And because they feel out of control, they are working with their baser instincts. And as you point out, a lot of what I'm writing here comes from our discussion last week about Maslow and the hierarchy of needs. When you realize that even people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are not very high on the list of that pyramid, we need to do something to start uplifting everything. And we have to look at how we can do that together. We can't. Right. I mean, politicians are bought and paid for by and large in Washington D.C. Not all of them, but the majority. I think we can agree on that. And they haven't started wearing the NASCAR jackets yet, so we don't know who they're bought and paid for.
You know what? That would be an awesome thing to do.
Oh, that's been going on for over a decade. First of all, with the Congress, and then with the Supreme Court, they need to wear jackets to tell us who's paying for them.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I wonder if someone could whip something like that up where, you've got whoever's speaking, their jacket or an infographic comes up with a list of all of their donors.
Oh, that would be really easy too, because there is a site, and I'll have it for next week. I don't have it in front of me right now, where they show who donates to each of the candidates and where their contributions come from. And it's and actually I did this in a few episodes back in our discussions. We could find that, put it up. We could create an infographic saying, "Here are the people who donate to this candidate."
Well, and I think
And
it's powerful to look at what they're saying again through the lens of who is supporting them.
you find almost a direct correlation because nobody looks it up.
Right, right.
You
I
know
love that idea.
the story of the Purloined Letter, right?
So who?
There was a story by Edgar Allan Poe, I believe, called the Purloined Letter. It might even be before Poe, but the whole concept was that everybody was searching for this letter, this incriminating letter, and it was sitting right there on the mantle out in plain sight. That's the philosophy behind this: is they don't even hide things anymore. They just don't talk about it. It's just sitting right there,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to pay attention to it. And part of what I talk about here is we need perspective. How do we? The question that I had up here to start with: how do we change that? By learning to see, by gaining perspective.
And how do we gain perspective? Sorry about that, Mark.
It's okay. I put up a technical difficulty. Be back soon.
I fat fingered a button and my whole screen went dark.
Everything kind of went dark. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Let's start over. Woo, that was a
Okay.
panic. Man,
Hi, this is Mark. Hi, this is Mark Wan. Mark and Marwan. We're going to be talking about stuff today. How's that for starting over?
Man, I was like, what just happened? My whole screen went black. All right.
So, how do we gain perspective?
Yes. How do we gain perspective?
Well, we will be doing more workshops. We are engaging in coffees every Saturday except for last Saturday, at the Cups Cafe downtown. First of all, go to the KidSap Resiliency Project page. I mean, all you have to do is look at it and read it and understand what we're doing, and then get engaged wherever you want to get engaged. We spent we're in the process of gathering leaves and cardboard to start our Matthew's garden. We just Crystal, one of our board members, Crystal Connolly, her husband, Terry, and myself went to Seattle on Sunday and just did touristy things and got to know each other. Part of gaining perspective is getting outside your comfort zone and getting to know people and looking at things differently, making connections, because that's what's being broken. So make more connections. So you brought up the KidSap Resiliency Project page, okay? And God only knows if you're actually going to be able to see what we want to see, because it's Facebook.
Actually, Amanda taught me how to look at the most recent stuff. How did you
Oh, cool.
More? Filters. So I'm teaching everyone at the same time. So if you're going and you're looking and you're like, man, it doesn't look the same and I can't see the most recent thing, go down to post here, go over to filters, and then click on. Well, that doesn't look right.
Well, that's the newest thing I put up right there. So
that must be, he must already have it set up that way.
Well, we had an issue last episode where we couldn't find it.
Normally what you do is you click on the filter thing next to the post, and it should say all new posts.
All new posts. Okay. So that's where you go if you're not seeing it. And you can always double check to make sure that it's set that way.
Okay.
But yes, please do check out the KidSap Resiliency Project page. And
see these two handsome gentlemen here on today's podcast.
Yeah, hey, that's a pretty recent picture. I have hair.
Yeah, I got that to you last week when we were at your barbecue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the one right below that, that was the trip to Seattle. There's a little blurb about the whole thing. That's Crystal's husband, Roger.
Okay.
Um, and then this is the PBS Terra just came out with a video about Cascadia Rising, and I put that out just to remember that this is this is going to happen. It's a real thing, even though we're not paying attention to it.
Mark, let me jump in. I
Yeah,
don't know what's been going on for the last week and a half. I've heard more about Cascadia Rising than probably in the past year, just kind of popping up into my feed in different places.
yeah. Well, the part of the thing is that PBS is now starting to cover it more frequently, and other people are
Hmm.
starting to pay attention to it. It just took a while for them to get there.
Why now? Something coming?
Um, well, because it's October. Now, this was something that I posted the other day that I found very interesting. Somebody posted the ultimate bias cheat sheet, and I thought that was actually a little funny and really interesting. Understanding what your bias is, and there's a couple on there that I fall right into,
Hmm.
helps you, counter it. Biases break connections. Learning how to counter them help you make connections. You want to read out a couple of them?
Yeah, so a few that stand out to me, definitely bandwagon effect. You tend to follow popular opinions or trends.
Yep.
Uh, Confirmation bias, we hear this one a lot. You favor information that confirms your existing beliefs, which is hard, right? That's the echo chamber. It can be
Right.
really hard to get out of. The Dunning Kruger effect, you overestimate your ability when you know little about something. So you
Yep.
get a lot of pompous, arrogant folks that kind of fall into that. Illusory correlation, you mistakenly believe two unrelated things are connected. That one can be tough, right? Because
That one's also
sometimes,
cognitive dissonance, believing
yeah,
that the two mutually exclusive things are real.
yes, yes,
You want an example of that?
yeah, please.
Corporations are evil, but I really like my Tide because it's what I use.
Mm.
So they must be okay because I
Okay.
use them.
Well, there's a
So
lot
yeah.
of cognitive dissonance for
So
sure.
anyway, this is was interesting. I put that up. The next one was more interesting. If it's going in order, it should be a quote. Yes, it is. This is the Maria Montessori, the person who put the Montessori schools together,
Hmm.
and I love this.
Let me read it.
Yes,
I went to a Montessori school, by the way. Everyone talks about peace, but no one teaches peace. In this world, you are educated for, sorry about that, everyone. You are educated for competition, and competition is the beginning of every war. When will we educate himself? When will he educate himself for cooperation and to offer each other solidarity? That day, he will be educating himself for peace. Maria Montessori.
yep. So this
So
is a
why don't
lot of
we teach peace?
well, because it's more beneficial to the corporations and the government to have us prepared to be at each other's throats. Teaching competition teaches us to be othering each other, to be in competition with each other, not to cooperate with each other.
Well, part of that sounds like the one body issue, right? You know
I'm
that
sorry.
philosophy.
No.
So there's a sci-fi I believe that came out of it's a series of books. It'll be on Netflix next year. You can catch it on YouTube if you like subtitles. But it talks about basically this philosophy of it's kind of like game theory, right? So if there's an alien race out there and you're out here, if you go out and you find them, what how are they going to regard you, right? Are they going
Right.
to see you as a danger and say they need to kill you? Will you see it that way? So it's better to stay hidden, right? Is kind of when you go through the game theory of it, as soon as you become known, then the conclusion will be war and destruction. And because they also don't know the level of advancement, right? So are you more advanced or are you less advanced? And there's no way to know. So you have to arm yourself and maybe do first action just because you don't know. You can't take the
Right.
chance.
And that's our way of thinking. And we
Right.
can't attribute an alien to having our way of thinking.
Sorry about that. I need to try to mute that.
So,
Let me take that off.
yeah, no worries. Anyways, the whole point of it is that we tend to be egocentrically human. We think that other people think like we do when we don't even know how we think. And we don't engage with each other in a cooperative manner. If we are successful in what we're doing, and a lot of, not just us, but everybody that's trying to do this work is successful, we will learn how to cooperate together, and we will move into a new age of humanity, a more cooperative age of humanity instead of a competitive one. And we will start working with those connections. We cannot assume that an alien race, whatever that looks like, will have gone through the same process. But we can't assume they haven't either. So we would not necessarily hide, but we would want to observe and see what we're dealing with.
Right. But we're just broadcasting ourselves out for everyone like we're here.
Right now we are.
Yeah. Probably foolish.
Well, there are billions and billions and billions of stars, and there's going to be stars with life forms on it, and maybe even advanced life forms on it. And God only knows if a lot of the theorists are right. We've already been visited by aliens, and we're still here. So we can't assume anything because we have a lack of knowledge. Otherwise, we go into one of those biases we just talked about.
Yeah, I was scrolling back up to the biases because I think we need to revisit that, sir.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good idea. We're not ready.
Well, it's like we aren't ready yet, and if it happens tomorrow, I'm just going to roll my eyes and cross my fingers and hope that we don't screw the pooch.
And the last one that I think is one of the most potent ones is the sunk cost fallacy. You stick with something not working due to what you've already put into it. And I think this is emblematic of our city council and our governments beyond, right?
Yep.
This is when you hear, oh, this is how we've always done it. This is the law. And it's like, but don't you make the laws, right? This is the ordinance, but don't you make the ordinance, right? And so we're just going to just keep on going, even though it doesn't work. And then we're just trying to make these little small incremental changes. And we think that that's going to have some large change when we need to about face and do some radical things, right? That's a huge one, sunk cost fallacy. Yep. I love this chart, by the way.
And it goes right along with, Alcoholics Anonymous' statement that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a better outcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that one.
So what we're trying to do is get people's perspective. I mean, really, if you break it down, everything that Rosecco does works toward getting people to have greater perspective and start making connections.
Mm-hmm.
That is our way of trying to future-proof humanity, getting us to make connections.
Terry said, I just read that. Are you talking about the one body problem, Terry? And did you like it?
I think she was talking about the chart that's on Facebook.
Oh.
as much as I would like to say that my dear partner Terry and another who is also a board member reads Facebook every day, she doesn't.
Well, I was geeking out on that, so
yeah.
I don't have time to read the book, and the books are really great. But yeah, I will be watching the series when it comes out. It's just a fascinating look at really complex issue.
So
and how we fall into these lines,
Yeah, I am reminded again right at this moment, just before the show started. I've been reading a book that is what a movie was based on, Ready Player One, which is a great movie. I love it. Steven Spielberg film, great cast, really interesting premise. But I was told that the book was better. And so Terry bought the book. I actually got the first chance to read it. And as I'm going through it, I like the book so much better than the movie.
Yeah.
Not that the movie was not still a great movie, but the book is so much richer in talking about the environment and how it happened. And when you look at it, it's the environment we're heading for at a high speed right now. Hunger, housing, dealing with people dying because there's just not enough resources for them. And then you have extreme haves and extreme have-nots.
Yeah.
And you have a gaming program called the Oasis, where you go into a virtual reality inside a machine, and everybody gets in there to escape. So,
And again, and I'll just share this, but this goes along with our conversation here. Amazon announces 2 ways to keep using robots to assist employees to deliver for customers. 750,000 Amazon robots that are able to do the jobs that many of humans do, right? And as you phase these out, and they tell you, oh, well, we'll be also creating jobs. Well, these jobs aren't for those people, right? These are engineered to keep the robots working and keep security or keep things secure from a cyber standpoint, right?
right.
And so, what do you do with 750,000 people out of work and more, right? And these are the things that we have to address now. And it's really the frog in the pot, right? It's being brought to boil, and all of these things: climate, housing, inflation, war, civil unrest. All
And
these
we
things
all
happen
and we all
intimately,
think it's somebody else it's going to happen to.
right?
Let's do the numbers one more time, just because I never get tired of saying this. I really do get tired of saying this, but let me say it: 46%. 46%. This is like now 6 months ago, so it's probably higher.
Mhm.
46% of the people in the United States, that's 150 million people, are one paycheck away from being homeless. That's half of us. 1 in 2. Okay? 1 in 2 of us. It's way past time for us to start addressing this. Okay?
To go a little further in that, also, our fallacy in American exceptionalism. When we look at the world population of 8 billion and we're 400 million, we are 5% of the world population. Now we use 25% of the world's this and that, right? We're extremists when it comes to being consumers, right?
And we don't recycle anything. So we're straight out just stealing the resources.
And so we have been able to think about that, right? You've got 5% of the world population that is able to force and dominate their will on the rest of the world. At some point, and what we're asking for here is the tipping point for we the people to wake up. What happens if that is a global phenomenon?
Yeah, then I
They say,
mean,
hey,
it happens a lot faster that way.
yeah, you're
So,
using 5%, you're using 25%, but you're 5%.
so
Collectively, as humans, we've got to get you guys to start living within your means and not being overconsumed.
and we pay more than anybody else for healthcare because we do not have universal healthcare in this country. We pay more for prescription medicine, we pay more for healthcare, and we pay more for shitty healthcare. And that's just the truth. We are 27th. Let's go back to that again. 27th in infant mortality in this country.
Yeah.
We're the greatest country in the world. Why exactly? We are 27th in infant mortality out of all of the industrial nations. But we have the largest military.
Well, we're going to need it right now, right?
Yeah.
Sadly.
So this is the life that we are. We have to make some choices here. I'm not saying we give up the military or do all the other things, but let's start coming together and making some decisions together because we aren't really that different.
And it's not hard to do, right?
No, it really isn't.
One or two people can get together. This is how you started the conversation earlier. We didn't know each other 2.5 years ago, and we've come together to do quite a few things
Yep.
here in the community. And so that it starts with the seed. And as cliche as that is, lean into it. Figure out what it is that you want to do. As small as you think it is, inconsequential. It has ramifications and it has power to someone. I've
Yep.
told the story on here many times before, where when I started G2, I wanted to serve the masses. I wanted to be like McDonald's, right? The billions and billions served. And I was in a workshop, and what I learned from that, what I took away was it wasn't the quantity of people you served, it was the quality of the service that you provided to the few that you did serve. And that
Yep.
meant so much more.
And you can't save everybody. You can't. A lot of people don't want to be saved. A lot of people won't trust your hand when it's reached out to them, even though they're sinking.
I was just having that conversation earlier also about, you have to be very cognizant of what vessels you pour into
So
because some have holes.
and some will take everything you got and go sink anyhow. So this is why resilient ecosystems and the people in the Kitsap Resiliency Project do it the way we do. We invite you to join us. We invite you to come to the table. If you can't do that much, there's no resources I can give you that are going to get you where you need to be.
And Terry says, yes, she did just read that.
Ah,
So you need to have a discussion because she might encourage you to read it. Terry, was it good? Did you enjoy it? It's right up your alley, Mark.
what are we talking about?
The 3-body problem.
Oh, okay. I will put that on my reading list for after this book.
That's awesome.
So yeah, this is we have to come together, and we can't go out and drag you to it. I mean, think about it. All of us seem to know an alcoholic. Until that alcoholic is ready to start dealing with the issue, it doesn't matter if you go and grab them and throw them in the car and take them to a meeting. It's not going to make any difference. All you can do is invite the person to join you. You can't make them do it.
So I was just having this conversation this morning also. Are there things that we can do to encourage someone who's not quite there yet? I mean, aside from having the conversation to maybe stimulate that process a little bit faster to get them engaged.
You have to have the conversation, and you say, I'm here when you're ready. Period. That's all you can do. I am here when you're ready.
So it's tremendously important to reinforce these conversations and these concepts. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Every minute of every day.
And I love how they just manifest, repeatedly throughout the day.
Yes.
Mm.
And you just have to be open to having the conversation.
It's that God gene. I love it.
So the reason the reason that I know about Amanda's past is we were talking while I was driving her, and she told me she was, and we started talking about HUD, and we started talking about the vouchers, and we started talking about perceptions, and that's a lot of what we'll talk about next week.
I say, don't give away the goose early.
No, but we talked about, we'll be talking about a lot more than that. But it's because I just was open to having a conversation and listening to what the person said, and talked enough to ignite something that we could talk about. And that's kind of what you do. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Just say hi, and see where it goes from there.
I would say that's a great way to meet other people that are outside of your comfort level, right? Some people talk about, get out of your bubble, right? And when I was teaching at the college, I would tell people, no, stay in your bubble. Try to expand your bubble, right? You want to stay comfortable. You don't want to go outside your bubble, have this bad experience, and then go back in, and it's 5 years before you try to come back out again, right? Expand your bubble a little bit. And by giving back and volunteering, I think you would say, by driving several different individuals, you've met people that you wouldn't normally have a conversation with, right?
And I've had lots of conversations.
Hey, we've got some commonalities here, or that's a great way of looking at that,
absolutely true. But I've been that way my entire life, much to my sister's dismay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we lived in Southern California, right near Disneyland, and so we'd go to Disneyland. We'd be in line for 2 hours for whatever. This is back in the '60s and early '70s, and I'd be there with my sister, and I'd start talking to people in line, and my sister would be going, "Oh no, 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 dude, come here, Mark, come here, Mark," and I'd just talk to them, and then people from Kansas, people from Ohio, people from Canada. I just talked to them. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing that all of my life. And it's amazing the conversations you get in with people because they just like somebody to listen to their story and listen to while they're there. And while you're waiting in line for 2 hours, you end up like in great conversations with people about stuff. And I've been doing that since I was a kid. I love hearing people's stories. I love figuring out where people have come from. And it's put me in the way of all kinds of interesting things. On the other hand, my sister hated it.
You know, there's quite a few people that I have that are friends who travel a lot, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that they remark on is how small they feel when they go to different countries and go and visit different structures or different land masses, and it's like, wow, I just realized how small I am in the world.
Mhm.
And we have our own orbit here, here in the United States, in Washington State, in Kitsap County, in Bremerton, in District 4, and you can drill it all the way down, right? And in that, we're still very segregated in regards to who we associate with, what stores we go to. And so we kind of see the same type of people in the spaces that we go. But there are all of these other folks that have very vastly different experiences, but they all exist in the same ecosystem. And if we
Absolutely.
just expand just a little bit and have those conversations, we'll see that the solutions will come fast and furious. And we're very much alike in so many different ways.
We are, and the thing is that we hold our differences in front of us like a shield
Hmm.
instead of putting the shield down and embracing the similarities. And there's a line from a movie that I think about frequently in this case, and you're going to laugh. It's from Smokey and the Bandit of all things. Burt Reynolds and Sally Fields are talking, and she talks about Broadway, and he talks about a country western star, and he says, um, "How smart you are depends entirely on what part of the country you're standing in."
Wow.
Think
That's true,
about that.
right? Yeah.
It's true.
Well, there's a lot of people up here that think that people from the South sound slow and ignorant, right? And then we'll get folks from the South that say, you talk like a Yankee, or you've got that that proper talk. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's all about the experiences, and here's the thing that we try and get across to people: it's the experiences that you share with each other that are different from what we know from our own experience
Hmm.
that create the diversity and the strength to create a picture for all humanity.
Yeah, I like it.
So that's what we work for. And I'm out of words today.
Are you? Well,
Yes.
let me circle back to my PSA.
Okay.
Uh, there is a frost advisory uh, here for Kitsap County that starts tonight and will go into tomorrow. So do make sure that you give yourself some extra time in the morning, as there may be frost on your windows. It may be a great consideration to say, hey, do I need to weatherproof my pipes and things a little bit early this year? We're supposed to hit the 30s and the low 20s in a few days here, and the severe weather shelters may actually activate before November 1st when the Salvation Army opens its shelter back up. So this is pretty early. This is earlier than we've ever been involved with 211 and getting folks to where they need to go. So I know there are a couple shelters that will open up. All of them are not ready, right? Because it's typically too early. But it just goes to show you that we need to prepare now and that climate change is a real thing and these things are happening. We've had one of the hottest, June
Hardest year in total.
in human history, recorded history, right?
Yep.
So these things are important, right? And as wherever you find yourself, whether you're the 40% making $40,000 in this city, or you are one paycheck from going homeless, you need to consider, how do you stay warm? How do you cut your heating costs while, keeping you and your family warm and safe? Those that are sleeping in the car and in an RV, and then of course those that are unhoused and on the street, right? We have a shortage of ponchos right now. You see how the rain just starts coming down and things change. I mean, it literally changed on a dime. We did the barbecue the other day where you got the thumbnail for the picture. It was a beautiful 70-degree day. It's very much like the East Coast, where it's like 70 degrees in the daytime and then it drops down into the, really low 40s at night. So it's here.
Yep.
It's hit us. We've got to prepare.
Yeah, I'm about to put the extra blanket on my bed.
There we go. Right. I mean, my
Yeah.
fireplace is on, and that's not for show. It is pumping heat.
Yeah, actually, my heater got turned on for the first time today,
Really?
just before the show because I didn't want to be shit in the show freezing. So
Well, stay out of G2 because Stephanie has it like a freaking ice box in there. I was in there yesterday. She had the AC on and the window open.
jeez.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Well, yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, I'm back home now, so
Yeah.
I won't go back down there for a month. That's a
Okay.
good way to keep me out of there.
Yeah, making it so frozen. So, last word, sir.
Last word is again, for me, it's expand your comfort bubble, right? Challenge yourself to meet someone in a different space that you typically frequent and go. Maybe try a different coffee shop. Have that conversation with the person in line behind you. Just that small talk. Expand yourself. Get to know your community. These little things lead to bigger things. And we're going to have to solve some pretty major issues here coming up pretty quickly. And unfortunately, we're going to get multitude. We're going to have a gaggle, if you will, of crises that we're going to need to solve simultaneously. And so if we can start to build and cultivate these relationships with people that we don't typically, um, engage with, the easier it will be to do the hard thing because it's still going to be difficult because we put it off for so long.
Yep. And it starts now. The clock has been ticking.
Yeah, I like it. Well,
Yep.
we're right on time. Tonight we have City Council. I believe it's study session. It is coming up to budget season, so this is again another time for you to get in, know how the city decides what they're going to invest in, where they see their priority is. Do they have any undue influence, like we said, from the outsiders? And then also we have the CK board meeting, Central Kitsap School Board meeting tonight, all on the conduit. So, as I always say, take care of yourself and take care of each other. For Mark Bortwright Frost, I am Marwan Cameron. This is Tipping Points and Puzzle Pieces, Resilient Ecosystems. We'll see you all next time.